Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm your congressman, your voice, and your vote in Washington. Mark Alford here with this week's Capitol Recap. Good to see you. Well, we are here in Statuary Hall of the U.S. Capitol. I can't believe I'm here. This was the original House chamber until 1857. A new, bigger chamber was built just down the hall there. That's where we vote when we're here. There are 35 statues here in Statuary Hall representing heroes, statesmen and women from various states. Every state is allowed 2 statues somewhere here in the Capitol, and 35 are lucky enough to be right here. Well, this week was another busy week in Congress. We started with celebrating America's law enforcement. Very important. To show our support, we passed 3 important pieces of legislation. First up, House Resolution 40. It supports local law enforcement officers and condemns efforts to defund or dismantle local law enforcement agencies. H.R. 2494 is called the Police Act of 2023. It makes the assault of a law enforcement officer a deportable offense for aliens in our country. Then H.R. 3091, it allows federal law enforcement officers to buy retired service weapons. All 3 of these are pretty common sense issues, if you ask me.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize our nation's law enforcement officers. They serve as a human shield between peace and chaos, preserving our way of life and upholding the rule of law. Our police officers are the first people we call when we're in danger. When our safety is threatened, they respond without hesitation. Their unwavering commitment to public service and willingness to confront the unknown is a testament to their strength and their humanity.
We also kept a close eye on the debt ceiling negotiations going on between Speaker McCarthy and the White House. By the way, McCarthy's office is just right here behind us. Well, right now, House Republicans are the only ones who have passed legislation that would raise the debt ceiling and take default off the table while cutting a lot of fat out of the president's bloated budget. For more than 100 days now, President Joe Biden and the Democrats have wasted valuable time refusing to negotiate with Kevin McCarthy. So make no mistake about it, folks. Democrats own this debt crisis.
You can't keep raising the debt ceiling. It's like having your child have a credit card, and year after year after year, you keep reaching the limit and you just keep expanding it. Well, there comes a point where your credit card now costs you more than all the money you make in a year, bigger than your entire economy. You're responsible for paying it, but shouldn't you actually look how you're spending money?
This week on the House floor, I got to fight to save AM radio in cars and trucks. You may not know this, but some car manufacturers, including Ford, makes the F-150 up there in Kansas City, say they want to get rid of AM radio from their new vehicles. Well, folks, this is a big step towards digitization, but it is also, I believe, an attempt to stifle conservative talk radio like Chris Stigall and Pete Mundo, and will also leave our farmers and ranchers stranded for information.
Mr. Speaker, I grew up on AM radio, listening to the news, listening to Dr. Demento, the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, falling asleep at night in my bed listening to that on the weekends. Rush Limbaugh, who not too long ago sat right up there in that gallery, recognized by President Trump. I even interned for the late Larry King. I love AM radio.
Well, we had a busy week in our committees, small business and agriculture as well. In small business, we had a hearing on the Biden-Harris Small Business Administration's disastrous rule change that really compromises the financial soundness of the 7A loan program. And it puts taxpayers like you and small businesses at risk. Now, these small business loans would be opened up to non-federally regulated lenders and what are called fintechs. It is not good.
I'm glad to be here today with my colleagues to continue that and discuss the Biden-Harris administration's SBA's disastrous rules that really compromise the soundness of the 7A program and puts taxpayers and small businesses at risk. Like many of my colleagues, I'm worried that the SBA is not able to effectively regulate this space and this activity. As a previous small business owner, I know how important capital is to small business, and I also understand access to capital can be a challenge, especially in districts like mine, which really has banking deserts. So let me be clear, I'm not anti-fintech, but I am against the rules that decrease standards and increase risks, threatening the integrity of the current system and leaving taxpayers on the hook when something goes wrong. The SBA released procedural notices about these rules the night before last week's hearing, the night before, leaving us zero time to review them. I'm here to tell you today, Americans deserve better than that. They deserve better than the fly-by-night Biden-Harris SBA, which is why I'm pleased to learn of the departure of the SBA official chiefly responsible for these rules who was with us last week. Mr. Kelly's blatant disrespect to this committee and its members last week showed a disregard for Congress, and it showed a disregard for small business owners. It also underscores the importance of congressional oversight so an unelected bureaucrat cannot shamelessly advance an agenda. Now, with no one at the helm of the SBA's Office of Capital Access, adding to the vacancy the offices already have, which are many, the Biden-Harris administration must put a pause on these rules and do it today.
In ag, we talk with livestock producers about the importance of our A+ Act. It would reduce regulatory barriers so that small and regional meat packing companies could expand, and that lowers the price for you.
In our bill, the A+ Act, as more viable means of achieving the same objective without jeopardizing consumer confidence in the safety of beef. Can you elaborate as to why the A+ Act and acts like that are more tenable solutions than the Prime Act?
Thank you for the question. And while I think the Prime Act is well-intended, the consequences of having uninspected meat going into commerce could be disastrous for the reputation of the cattle industry. The producer out there expects that their meat is going to be inspected, it's going to be wholesome and a hearty product, and we've spent decades building that reputation. The advantage of your act or the Direct Act, the A+ Act, still maintains that inspection process and gives us the best of both worlds. So I appreciate you bringing a product forward that allows us to get the meat into the commerce stream, but doesn't subject our consumers to any risk of uninspected meat.
And once again, we finished up with some more media interviews, being a strong conservative voice for you, just like I promised to be.
All right, you're with Tuberville on this?
I am. This is a violation of the Hyde Amendment. The federal government should not be in the business of providing abortions for women. The military should not be paying for abortions for military members. It's about providing safety. It's about providing a military force that is ready to fight.
Well, folks, as you can see, this has been another busy week here in Washington. Hey, on a side note, my brother Paul, a retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and his family were up here from Texas visiting. So we got to show them around this cool place. They got to meet Speaker McCarthy and Steve Scalise and see what I do for a living now. If you're ever in D.C., look us up. We're on the 5th floor of Longworth. We'd love to see you. Well, until next time, from Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol, I still can't believe I'm here. I'm Mark Alford, your voice and your vote in Washington.